pass another ordinance that will allow us to pay people within the organization, that's a classified people in the organization, $2,000 for every person that they recruit and mentor to get them through the academy. We had a program where we paid them $1,000, so we're kicking that up to $2,000, and hopefully that will get more of our people motivated to become recruiters. Because I tell people when they're out answering calls and interacting with the public every day, they're recruiting whether they know it or not, because they're selling and advertising HPD. As I stated, we're not saying that because we have this difficult challenge of finding people to grow our department that we said, well, those are excuses, we don't have to do that. Because we know that we're responsible for public safety, so we have to take other steps to make sure that we continue to provide the service that you expect. One of the things that we did in November of 2007, I initiated a program we call our Crime Reduction Unit. That's a group of 55 officers that the captains get together and they decide where we're having the greatest challenge within the city, and we send those 55 officers in there, and they stay from 4 to 6 weeks to make sure that they take charge of that area. And what we do, we target the worst of the worst, the gang members, people involved in violent crime, people with warrants on them, and ex-offenders. Thus far, we started on the 5th of November, and the numbers that I have as for last week, they have arrested 2,000 people, 2,000 habitual offenders, individuals that we've had to take off the street of Houston because of their criminal behavior. Last month, we unveiled another program. We call it our 24/7 Crime Center. What that allows us to do now, we have 15 crime analysts, 15 officers sitting at a station. Is when an officer gets, say, a violent offense occur. So as I said, an assault in progress, and they give us an address. We now have the capability to research that address, research the names of individuals that we have, whether they're victims or suspects or witnesses. We're able to tell the officer while he's en route, are their weapons registered to that address. We also check driver's license, automobiles that's registered at that location. Because in the past, when an officer responded to a call like that, we had less, or that officer had less information than anybody else involved there. They knew each other, they had a history, they knew who's mad at who and why. An officer gets there, so he has to start asking those questions. So we're now able to give them that information while they're en route. And we can give it to them on their computer, or we have the capability to interrupt the radio process and broadcast that information directly to them and other officers responding. We also now have the capability with a program called CopLink and some other technology. If there is a homicide at a location, and we call in our detectives to respond to that, we have the ability to freeze all calls and activity about a mile radius of that incident. Suspicious person running through backyards, car speeding out of that area, suspect or individual look like he's been injured and limping away from that area. Anything that may help that detective solve that case much quicker, that information is immediately put together, and when they arrive at the scene, we hand them that book. We hand them that book of information so they can get right on the case. They don't have to spend weeks running down those leads and researching themselves. We gather that information immediately. One of the other things that we think is very important for that is that we give that directly to the captains in each one of the patrol divisions. We also have smart boards that we're going to be putting in the patrol divisions as we get information in a particular area of the city. In that patrol division, we'll feed that information out to each roll call. And as a group of officers come to work, they'll know what happened the last 24 hours in their area of responsibility. And it's interactive. If they have questions, they can get on the smart board, go right back to the 24 Crime Center, and have their questions answered right away. So we're taking advantage of technology to make us much more effective. The other thing that's important for us in this area is the fact that we'll also be able to allow citizens in the community to get information on criminal activity on their street, on their neighborhood, or in somebody else's neighborhood that live in the city of Houston. Because the minute that a report is downloaded from the officer in the field, within 30 seconds, we will have that information available so the citizens can see that that was a robbery or burglary or stolen vehicle on my block. And we think that's important because we know that we need citizen support, their awareness and involvement for us to make Houston safer. Every 6 hours, there will be a complete refreshing of the information, of crime stats. Now, I'm not criticizing other agencies, but some of those agencies, they refer to their real-time crime center, and their information is 24, 48, or 5 days later. The latest information that our officers will get will be 6 hours old. 6 hours old. It can happen, if some things happen in the beginning of their shift, they should be able to get that information before they go home. So, in the same way with citizens in the community. We don't have that in place yet, but it will only take us a couple of months to get there. The best part of it all, our system costs $3 million. That's including the people as well as the technology. We had $1.6 million was given to us from the state because they want to look at this model to expand it throughout the state of Texas, and the rest of it we took from the general fund of the Houston Police Department. The New York system cost $11 million, and the Chicago system $40 million. And take it from an unbiased person, ours is better than either one of those. And speaking of New York, LA, there's been a lot of concern about a concept called CompStat, and whether we are practicing that concept here in the city of Houston. And just like we looked at those 24-hour crime centers and adopted the best practices of each one of those centers had and created what we thought that fit Houston, we also have our CompStat program here. And it's really, we call it a crime prevention meeting. It's not that fancy, just a crime prevention meeting. How do we meet the captains, myself, the assistant chiefs, the captains, and some of their staff. We meet every 2 weeks, and we have captains, a select group of captains, come in and report as to the crime problems they're having and what they intend to do about it. And then 4 weeks or 6 weeks later, they come back and they have to report out the results. What worked, what didn't work. And we do that in a group because give the captains an opportunity to learn from each other and ask questions. We have the investigators there that represent the investigators, and we have the patrol people and the special ops people there to make sure that everybody is sharing in that process. And we've seen some significant successes in areas throughout the city. For instance, in Southwest Houston, they had a burglary reduction program in District 16, and they started in October, and end of last month, they had reduced burglaries in that area by 70%. They arrested 42 burglars in the process of committing burglaries. You know, that's not very easy to do. Usually we are constantly reacting. People come home, my house has been burglarized, and we get maybe an 8 to 6 or 7, 8 hour late start on the suspect. In this case, we're lucky enough to catch the individuals in progress. And we're spreading that concept out across the city, and we're going out under the initiative of, we call it the Keep Houston Safe effort. Each patrol division, each captain will be responsible for starting those initiatives in their divisions, and we've seen some significant progress, not only in the Southwest, but Northeast, East Side, and now we have one just recently started on the North side of town. And every captain is going to be required to play. that they'll identify areas and put their initiatives in place. So in addition to those couple of things that we're doing to reduce crime, and one of the things I do want